In May 1994, an NBC boss sat in a screening room holding a secret report about a brand new show called Friends. The pilot had just scored a 41 out of 100. The same network had given ER a 91. Inside that report, audiences called the 6 characters smug, fake, and full of themselves, and said the coffee shop setting was just confusing. NBC almost killed the show before a single episode ever aired, but that buried report was only the first secret the network spent the next 30 years trying to hide, and the rest of them are way darker than you think. Let's start with the report NBC tried to bury. The Smoking Gun published that private NBC research report years later, and it reads like a death sentence for the show. The exact words on the page called the pilot not very entertaining, clever, or original. Adults over 35 said the cast felt fake and full of themselves. Monica scored the highest of the 6 characters, but the network still ran a test screening where they handed audiences a survey asking whether Monica was a slut or a harlot for sleeping with Paul the wine guy on a first date. Co-creator David Crane told the Sunday Times in 2024 that the audience just wrote back, "We like Monica." Warren Littlefield, who ran NBC at the time, later said the bias was baked right into that question. NBC didn't stop pushing notes either. They wanted an older sage advice character added to the group. They wanted a diner setting instead of a coffee house, because Seinfeld already had one. The writers ignored every single network note. The original working title was Insomnia Cafe. Then it became Friends Like Us, then 6 of 1, then Across the Hall, before they finally landed on Friends. But the salary fight that came next made every NBC executive wish they had cut the show after the pilot. Now look at the salary war that flipped Hollywood. In Season 1, every cast member earned just $22,500 per episode. By Season 3, the writers tried to give Jennifer Aniston and David Schwimmer raises because Ross and Rachel had become the heart of the show. Schwimmer flat out said no. He walked into the producer's office and refused to take more money than the other 4 were getting. His agents were begging him to cash in while he was the breakout star with movie offers stacking up. Warren Littlefield said it himself on the Television Academy Oral History, calling Schwimmer the smart one who held the whole cast together. From Season 3 onward, all 6 actors got paid the same, $75,000 each, then $85,000, then $100,000, then $125,000 per episode. By 2002, every single one of them was pulling $1 million per episode, and they each got a 2% cut of every future dollar the show would ever make. David Crane confirmed the cast walked off the set one day, mid-negotiation, just to apply pressure on the studio. NBC paid every cent because they had no choice left. Yet what NBC really didn't want out was happening behind the curtain, because the funniest man on that set was quietly dying. But the biggest secret was Matthew Perry's addiction. In 1997, Matthew Perry crashed a jet ski on the set of Fools Rush In. A doctor handed him a Vicodin prescription, and his life fell apart. By the end of Season 3, he was swallowing 55 of those pills every single day. He wrote it himself in his 2022 memoir, Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing, saying that when you're a drug addict, it's all math. He couldn't remember filming Seasons 3 through 6. He told interviewers he could tell which season was which just by looking at his weight on screen. Heavy meant alcohol, skinny meant pills, and a goatee meant a lot of pills. At his thinnest, he weighed 128 pounds. He was diagnosed with pancreatitis at 30 years old from drinking. The only season he was fully sober on Friends was Season 9, the same season he earned his Emmy nomination. Across his life, Perry told the New York Times he spent roughly $9 million just trying to get clean. He went to 6,000 AA meetings, 15 rehabs, and 65 separate detoxes. The cast knew exactly what was happening to him. Jennifer Aniston walked up to him on set one day and quietly told him she knew he was drinking. He later told Diane Sawyer that confrontation crushed him and that Jennifer reached out the most through every relapse. The studio quietly postponed his scenes when he was too sick to film. he paid a $650,000 settlement when he had to leave the movie serving Sarah to enter detox. And that wasn't even the only story NBC was trying to hide from the public. Then came the wedding episode, NBC Almost Killed. On January 18, 1996, Friends aired The One with the Lesbian Wedding. Carol married Susan on national television, and it became one of the first lesbian weddings ever broadcast in American sitcom history. NBC was scared out of their minds about the backlash. They set up 104 phone operators that night because they thought 1 million angry calls were coming in. Marta Kaufman later told The Hollywood Reporter the network got exactly 2 complaints all night. But 2 stations refused to air the episode at all. KJAC-TV in Port Arthur, Texas, and WLIO in Lima, Ohio, both pulled it from their schedules. KJAC station manager Ron Kelly told reporters the episode didn't meet the standards of good taste in their community. GLAAD blasted the bands publicly the next day. Newt Gingrich's openly lesbian sister, Candace Gingrich, officiated the ceremony on screen, which made the political backlash even louder than NBC had ever feared. The episode still pulled 31.6 million viewers anyway. People still call it a turning point in network TV history today. So what NBC tried to bury as a quiet ratings risk was actually a censorship fight the network almost lost on live air. While that controversy played out across America, another wild backstage moment was about to happen because of one losing bet, which leads right into the Bruce Willis bet. In 1999, Matthew Perry was filming The Whole 9 Yards with Bruce Willis. Perry bet Willis the movie would debut at number 1 at the box office. Willis bet against him, but the movie hit number 1 on opening weekend, which meant Willis lost the bet flat out. The terms of the bet were simple. The loser had to make a guest appearance on Friends and donate the entire paycheck to charity. Willis showed up in season 6 and played Paul Stevens, the father of Ross's young girlfriend, Elizabeth. He filmed 3 full episodes for nothing. Entertainment Weekly later reported that Willis donated the money to 3 AIDS foundations, the Rape Treatment Center and UCLA Unicamp. Then Willis won an Emmy for Outstanding Guest Actor on that role. He confirmed it himself in a Wired video years later, saying he was on Friends only because he lost a bet to Matthew Perry. A movie star walking onto a sitcom for free, winning an Emmy, and giving the cash to charity. The next thing that happened on set, though, wasn't going to be funny at all. Now let's talk about Matt LeBlanc's shoulder. During season 3, the cast was filming an episode called The One Where No One's Ready. Joey and Chandler were fighting over a chair, and the script called for Matt LeBlanc to leap onto the armchair at full speed. He nailed the first 3 takes clean. On the 4th take, he landed wrong and dislocated his shoulder midair. The whole stage heard the pop go off. Production stopped dead that night. The writers had to scramble and rewrite the next episode, the one with the jam, so that Joey appeared in a sling, explaining he had fallen out of bed. Producer Kevin Bright told the press that what started out to be the simplest Friends episode ended up taking the longest amount of time to shoot. Backstage during the long delay, LeBlanc walked into the hallway and ran straight into Anthony Edwards in full Dr. Mark Green costume from ER, which filmed on the next stage over at Warner Brothers. 2 of the biggest NBC stars of the decade standing in the same hallway, living in 2 totally different worlds. Yet none of that compared to the casting drama nobody knew about for years. The casting drama was even crazier than that. Courtney Cox was originally offered the role of Rachel. She turned it down and asked to play Monica instead because she thought Monica was the stronger character. Jamie Gertz was offered Rachel before Jennifer Aniston ever got the script, and quietly passed. Jennifer was already tied to a CBS show called Muddling Through, but Warren Littlefield bet correctly that CBS would cancel it, which freed her up just in time. Matthew Perry was locked into an unaired sci-fi pilot called LAX 2194 about future airport baggage handlers. Producers thought he couldn't play Chandler at all, So Perry actually coached another actor named Craig Bierko on how to read the part. Bierko got offered Chandler, but he turned it down flat. The role came right back to Perry the next day. John Cryer auditioned for Chandler from London. His audition tape got stuck in customs for weeks. By the time it finally arrived in Los Angeles, Perry was already cast. Cryer later told James Corden the missing tape changed his entire career. Janine Garofalo was the original inspiration for Monica's voice, darker and snarkier, and she reportedly chose Saturday Night Live over Friends. So the cast everyone knows almost never even existed. NBC's next big bet then completely fell apart on national television. After Friends ended, NBC pushed the spin-off too hard. The Joey spin-off premiered on September 9, 2004, in the exact same Thursday 8 p.m. slot Friends had owned for a full decade. The pilot pulled 18.6 million viewers, and NBC thought they had printed money all over again. They were dead wrong about every part of that bet. Season 1 averaged around 10 million viewers, which was already a steep drop. Then NBC moved the show to Tuesdays Against American Idol on Fox, and the ratings crashed to just 4.1 million viewers. The network put Joey on hiatus in December 2005, aired one final episode in March 2006, and officially canceled the show on May 15, 2006. 8 finished episodes never aired in the United States at all. Producer Kevin Bright later blamed the studio for forcing changes that turned Joey into a pathetic, mopey character on screen. David Crane and Marta Kaufman refused to be involved in the spin-off at all. The original creators saw what NBC was doing and walked away clean. Yet the show that buried itself wasn't the last secret to come crashing out, because the reunion finally cracked open something the cast had hidden for almost 30 years. The reunion finally cracked everything open. On May 27, 2021, the cast filmed Friends, the reunion for HBO Max. Each one of them was paid at least $2.5 million for that single special. During filming, David Schwimmer told James Corden something nobody outside the original cast had ever known. He said that during the first season of Friends, he had a major crush on Jennifer Aniston. Jennifer nodded on camera and said she felt the exact same way. They never crossed the line. They were both in other relationships at the time, so they poured the whole thing straight into Ross and Rachel. That tension on screen, the slow look across the coffee shop, the wedding scene where Ross says the wrong name at the altar. All of it came from a real crush they buried for years. Matthew Perry and Courtney Cox both said the same thing during the reunion, that everyone on set already knew the truth. The reunion drew 29 million viewers across its first week worldwide. But the money that came after the show ended makes everything before it look like spare change. Today, the money is just absolutely insane. In July 2019, Warner Media paid $425 million to license Friends for HBO Max for 5 full years. That works out to roughly $85 million per year just for streaming rights. Netflix had already paid somewhere between $80 and $100 million to keep the show on its own platform for 2019 alone. USA Today reported the series still pulls in around $1 billion per year from reruns and streaming around the world. Each cast member got a 2% cut of those profits back in 2000 before the big salary jump. That one clause means Jennifer Aniston, Courtney Cox, Lisa Kudrow, Matt LeBlanc, the Matthew Perry estate, and David Schwimmer each still earn roughly $20 million every single year from a show that ended back in 2004. Lisa Kudrow has confirmed the number herself in interviews since the reunion aired. NBC said this show would fail in front of audiences. The pilot scored a 41 out of 100. The cast got called smug. The coffee shop was confusing, so every executive who once signed off on that survey about Monica eventually had to watch 6 actors they almost cut walk away with $20 million a year for the rest of their working lives. If this changed how you see Friends forever, hit subscribe before you scroll away.